What's up, guys? This is my VOD review for Simplicity versus. I actually don't know who this is. When I do these VOD reviews, I like to do these VOD reviews basically in one shot. I don't really like to watch the VOD review first to try to find talking points, and the reason for that is I feel like it's really easy to spot mistakes in hindsight. So it's like after the mistakes are made. But what we want to do is as a team, we want to learn how to prevent these mistakes from even happening, right? Um, and and truth is, even like learning from hindsight is good too. But the problem is sometimes I feel like not a lot of people will explain why it was wrong and how to prevent that in the future. And so hopefully you guys will learn something. And so if you guys want to join me in watching this VOD for the first time and see how it goes. I've been told that this VOD won't have voice comms. Moving forward, try to make sure we do have voice comms because that'll help explain, you know, that. So the comms will kind of help explain certain decision making, and so like maybe you went for a play because like your IGL called for a play, and even though it was a bad play, a situation like that is acceptable. Just because our idea here is to to work as a team, you know, listen to your IGL, work as a team. You can still do and execute perfectly and still lose. You know what I mean? Because like everybody whiffs, right? I think the issue is that not so much whiffing, you know, because that's something we can always work on. But I think it's like the strategy is kind of what I want to look at. And so moving forward, just kind of keep that in mind is that I don't care as much about people whiffing as I do people not going for something, right? And so let's do it.
Or, oh, dragons!
Okay, so round one, we have Ray's Omen on A, Sky on B, Sage mid. Pretty typical first round. Sage buying wall first round. It's great. Okay, now I'm a little bit confused on why you guys switched. I'm assuming maybe something in the comms.
Blocking sight.
Okay, first mistake I see is I'm unsure. Jet, I'm unsure what you're doing at this point, right? So it's like, okay, so you rotate through vents to help support your A players. You are not going to support your Omen. You decide to support your Raze. You smoke off main. Your Raze dies. You fight temporarily, but then you back off completely. It looks like you're about to go screens, potentially to help your Sky. But instead of doing that, you decide to stay in heaven and kind of watch your Omen die, and then your Sky dies while your Sage is on a flank. So issue one I see, Jet, is that it looks like you had this idea to go screens, right? But because your Sky was there, you decided not to. I feel like in lower elos, no offense to anybody here, but in lower elos, one mistake I see often is that everybody feels like they need to split up. Like the splitting up is going to be the best option here. The problem right now is that your Omen had to fight what was like a 2v1. Your Sky had to fight like a 2v1. Your Raze had to fight like a 2v, or sorry, the opposite. So like 1v2, right? So it's like it was like just them versus like multiple, right? So your Omen is on ramp fighting like what is probably like 2 people. Your Raze was fighting on site, probably was peaked by 1 or 2 people. Your Sky with screens, probably peaked by 1 or 2 people. And you're in a position now, like because you didn't play, I guess, close to a teammate, you're now in a position where your Sky is trying to clear long, right? There is somebody watching, and you're not really ready to help anybody, right? So it's like everybody is in their own solo fight, and the only way to win this is just by winning your duel.
Spike planted.
See, your Sage is stuck. So your Sage cannot even get to you because she's being held by the Cypher. You should have gone ramp to fight that Cypher. The problem is you stayed in heaven, not really watching anything, and not really going for anything until it was too late. Yeah, so it just seemed like everybody had to do an individual fight. Early in the round, Omen is fighting ramp, Raze is fighting on site. You rotated early to help, but low key, I feel like you never really helped. You almost helped. Like you kind of helped the Raze with that smoke, but maybe you could have played site instead. Something that would allow, maybe like if you're playing site and you could hold down site, then your Sky probably could have pushed onto site out of screens, but she couldn't even get there. And so, yeah, just the issue I see really is just like a lack of togetherness so far. Looks like your Sage, okay, it's not AFK. So nothing mid. So same thing. So it looks like your Raze is going for a play. So your Raze is going for a play solo. Your Omen is not like engaging with this at all this time, right? And so the round that your Omen is not engaging with a main, your Raze decides to go for a play. Like, I want you guys to think a little bit about your purpose and like why you're doing this. Like Raze, you are pushing in solo, gambling that you might run into 5 people who presumably have guns, right? They should have bought. The other team should have bought because they won. And you're doing this on a round where your Omen is not there to support you at all. Like your Omen's not setting up a smoke. Your Omen's not doing anything. Your Omen cannot trade you out. And you decide to go for a play this round alone with, I assume, a classic. Like on pistol rounds, I definitely think is a time for you to try something different. But the thing to remember is like pistol rounds and save rounds are totally winnable. That's the thing. Like you shouldn't play it dumb. Maybe just go for a play together. Like this would have been a good time to maybe have 3 people push out A main, or maybe 3 people push out mid. But yeah, I just feel like you going for that solo play when your Omen is just chilling up on ramp, is kind of not really worth. See, smoke doesn't come out until you're dead. Looks like you're gonna help. Looks like you're gonna help on site. You guys tried.
Spike planted.
So your Sage has one that's... So your Sage gets to read that one as screens, like CT already. Decides to check it alone. Sky, I'm not sure what you're doing. Sky, you're playing really slow, and your Sage is like trying to do something, right? So just the togetherness is what I need you guys to work on here. So this round you guys should all be buying. I see Sage with a Marshall, or Raze with a Ares. I don't know what's up with your guys' money, but you guys should all have full armor, good guns. So at this point, Raze, you should be holding this the cross right here, so that way your Omen can focus on vents. Because we lost Heaven and that Jet, we heard updraft over. The Jet could be in vents right here. So Raze, make sure we hold this angle here. It can be a tight angle, but you just need to be aware if somebody crosses, you need to let the Omen know, so that way your Omen can be focused more on vents rather than looking at the wall up on ramp, which is kind of purposeless. Because if you look at what both you guys are doing, is like you're jiggling for this, whereas Omen is jiggling for this. Because of what you're jiggling, Omen jiggling top ramp is kind of pointless. It's kind of a waste. Like he's like checking for something that checking for somebody who literally cannot be there, as long as Raze, you do your job and ensure that you don't allow for somebody to go up there without getting that information. At this point, we have Jet trying to rotate into B Heaven. Omen, you should be focused more on vents or ropes or whatever. So the only issue I really have with the smoke play is that it might slow them down for about 5 seconds, but you're not repositioning into something that would make the fight more advantageous for you. Assuming the guys on the other team are pretty smart, they kind of know already exactly where you are because of your because of the audio, right? Like it's a little obvious that that's where you would be, and it's the easier angle to clear. And so I think at this point, like, you know, you need to start trying to gain control of this, because the problem I can see is that if they go B Heaven, your Omen is going to be too late to catch them going B Heaven, and then Jet, you will either get shit on, or you're going to back up and allow them to take B Heaven, which will force your Sky into a weird position, because your Sky is trying to watch B main, but then also needs to watch above her. So that's kind of one of the issues I see with this. See, it's like you're giving up B Heaven, and see now, like, see that. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. You gave up B Heaven, so your Sky gets a pick B main. You decide to run away from B Heaven for, I don't understand why you would do that. And now your Sky is trying to fight somebody B Heaven that you should have been holding.
Spike planted.
Enemy spotted B. There. Enemy spotted B. Got one.
Last player standing.
So a couple things to note. The timing here is a little rough. It looked like Omen and Raze, you guys were trying to clear out Heaven. Sadly, the trade was a little bit late, but your Raze was able to get that frag. And then Jet, so now you decide to go for a play when I feel like your Raze isn't really ready. So now you're like on site going for a play. And so, like, look at where your Raze is at. Your Raze cannot trade you. You know, you guys should be double swinging this, but your Raze cannot trade you because you decided to go for a play. Honestly, like when they weren't ready, like, you know, maybe you could have tried to go for a play maybe while they were fighting B Heaven. But now that they cleared B Heaven, or now that your team has cleared B Heaven, the guys on site are not like, their attention isn't focused towards anything else other than like sight, right? Because if you guys are Heaven, they are in no danger. But so just something to keep in mind timing wise. It's like you're going alone. You know, it's like I feel like a lot of times people in this ELO like will try to fight alone for some reason, and the timing of when they decide to make these decisions are off. So you end up whiffing on the raise, but your raise isn't there to help you. And now your raise is now forced into a 1v2. So the mistake I see is that you decided to push alone, risking a 1v2 situation for yourself because your raise wasn't there with you, risking a 1v2 situation for yourself. You lost it, and now you forced your raise into a 1v2 situation. If you guys push together, if you're lucky, it's a 2v1 situation. If you're unlucky, then it's a 2v2 situation. So just thinking odds-wise, pushing together is literally always better. Because forcing or risking and or forcing yourself into two 1v2s is like you have like a, let's say statistically it's like a 33% odd of winning each of those fights. But if you were to push together, you gamble that maybe it's a 2v1 on the first guy. If one of you gets traded, right, either way, the last two, it's going to be a 1v1, so that's like a 50-50 fight right there, rather than an unfavorable one, which would be like, you know, what you guys kind of put yourself into. You know, you put yourself into a 1v2, then your raise was forced into 1v2. So just think about timing, try to think about working together, and to not be scared, you know, of dying, and then also like to like understand what you need to hold in order to win, you know. Jet, I had this feeling that you were going to leave B Heaven, and you did. And it forced your Sky to be in a very, very tough situation where she's just fighting for her life while you are safe in CT. Like, honestly, like not going to fly, you know, not going to fly. If you had held control of B Heaven, right? One, you probably would have been able to catch that Jet without her noticing or catch her off guard. And then it would have allowed your Omen and your Raze to probably more freely rotate over to you guys. But you let go of this. So Sky gets a pick. So Sky gets a pick B main. You say F it, and you completely let go of mid, or of B Heaven. So, like, now your Sky gets shit on, and now you're just in CT. And now they have control of B Heaven, which makes it very tough for your two teammates to even get to you, right? So just think about that, right? Like, you were holding B Heaven, and then you let it go for kind of no reason. You know what I mean? Like, if you wanted to support your Sky, you were already B Heaven, right? Like, you can push into B Heaven and you have that control. You wrapping all the way around CT is, it takes too long. You lose the timing on it. You're not there when you need to be. And this game really is based on timing. A lot of timing, a lot of getting lucky, or just being quick on your feet. And so wrapping around CT, you know, it was, I'm sorry, but it was purposeless, you know. You let go of Heaven, forcing two of your teammates to try to clear it. You know, you lose a teammate in the process. So it's like that play call right there. You lost two teammates in order for you to get to CT and basically not really fight anybody, you know. So no more mistakes. Let's try to reduce that moving forward. I'm a little bit worried that you're peaking with Spectre, honestly. You know, especially if you're playing ropes this time. I think that you can definitely play a little bit more ratty, play a little bit close.
Blocking sight. Sleep tight.
So you smoke it off only to not reposition, you know. So I think that's something to kind of pay attention to. Because remember, the opponents, right, they're saying, like, oh, Jet is vents, right? And then I don't need you to reposition necessarily, as in, like, completely move locations, but, you know, just kind of using some, I don't want to call it brain sense or game sense, really. It's just kind of using your tools as a method of manipulation you know, like kind of manipulating their mind. You know, because like their call is that your vents, if you can reposition, maybe you can tuck really close to the sage wall, like behind that little box that's like right in front of you. Something like that, you know, something that makes it really tough. Maybe holding across with your sage. Your sage is, I think, playing pretty loud in B Heaven, whereas you're playing, you're kind of quiet in vents, and so they should clear. They should, like, in order for them to push you, they need to clear sage, and so like you guys could potentially hold across. Even though your sage is rocking a Marshall, she could potentially hold across there with you. What the hell happened here? Okay, so Omen, you smoked off A main like right here, so you basically smoked off the cross rather than smoking off whatever this is, like the actual like A main entrance. And so Raze is playing sight, so Raze cannot watch the cross for you. So you need to be hyper aware that they can walk up ramp. Like that smoke allows them to walk up ramp for free. And it looks like you get caught off guard because you're like looking out heaven for some reason. You like let go of ramp, and then you're like looking out heaven. Then you look at ramp, look out heaven. Then you look at ramp, and then like literally like she ends up being like so close to you, and you had no clue. So you probably got scared shitless. All right. Okay. Oh my god. It's a good ult by Sky. Just secure the round. It's worth it. So you got the read that both are B main. Jet, I kind of like this push
30
here.
seconds left.
That is... I know I said I'm not going to call out people whiffing, and that even pros whiff, but that cannot happen anymore. Make sure you practice in order so it's not that you don't whiff or anything, right? Because like I said, it always happens. Like whiffing happens, but you were in such an advantageous position, and I think you might be the only one on your team with like a real gun at this point. We cannot lose advantages like that, right? Where especially where you know where she is and she doesn't actually know exactly where you are, and for her to win that is pretty rough. And I know she's running gunning, but I don't care because it only takes one bullet to hit her in the face, and you hit her for 0. So yeah, just food for thought.
One enemy remaining. 10 seconds left. Spike planted.
Nice, Sky. Usually I would say something like yo, wait for your raise. You know, you don't need to push that alone. But sure enough, it was a good kill. You know, you had a read that she was going to force plant it, and you decided to push it anyways, and it worked. So
Yeah, let's bring it back. Need a drop. Need a drop. Thanks. I'll find their cipher.
fair warning, just as a heads up. Generally, my VOD reviews take about an hour to an hour and a half. So, you know, I'll try to speed it up a little bit. But so, Jet, I like that you're going for a play, but I don't like that you re-peek off of it. I think you could just, like, hold that. But you have a read that is, like, not mid, but now your Sage is checking mid too. I don't know. I feel like we've got some early information here. So Sky flashed out B main, did not catch anyone B main. Jet, you pushed a little bit out market and you jiggled market and you don't see anybody market. Your Sage doesn't see anyone sewers. Your Omen smoked the main entrance to A main, but your Raze is not watching the cross. And so your Omen might run into like a team of 5, or your Raze might run into a team of 5. So Omen, Raze, you guys are not playing together. It's just a little bit too gambly, and it's relying on both of you guys really just like hitting your shots and just, you know, like winning your fights out. I think that maybe you guys could consider maybe doubling up or kind of playing off of each other just a little bit more. And maybe changing up your positions a little bit, you know, like maybe, because the thing is at this point, they're probably always expecting Omen to be ramp and they're always expecting Raze to be site. And so they know if they were to push one or the other, if they push up ramp and they kill the Omen, then they know they have heaven for free, right? They probably are. They already have a read that Sky is B main, you know, because that one's obvious. And then Sage and Jet, you guys have been playing mid pretty often. So I think at this point, you guys have become pretty readable. And so they know whatever they had to pick on, they kind of know where the rest of you guys are. So something to keep in mind.
Spike down A.
Blocking sight.
One enemy remaining.
Sage going for a solo fight. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but yeah, it was a good round. Well played.
Get out of my way.
Okay, so you get some action here mid. You decide to drop completely off. The problem here, so you guys have given up mid completely, which puts your B players under a lot of threat, which is fine. Like if you got to get rid of, give it up, you got to give it up. But I think Omen, you should be trying to smoke here. That was a good trade. That's an easy one for you guys. 3v2. You do have a res. But it looks like they're saving, so it might not be necessary. Okay. Timing's a little awkward here. So your Sage is pushing on site, but you guys are still up in heaven. Raze, you do have a nade, so you could nade this. There you go.
Player standing.
Okay, guys. You guys are throwing. Oh, okay. You guys are just taking turns. I don't know what's happening here. Your Raze, so it's like your Omen drops on site first. You guys are kind of playing together, but problem here is that angle right there. I'm not sure what happened here. Like we knew she was pillar, right? Like literally based off of all that information, she's either pillar or main at this point. So like that's something you got to be pretty hyper focused on. You naded that little back cubby, so there could be somebody there, but it's like slightly less likely, you know. And so we kind of already had a read that she was going to be pillar. Peeks once at a time. Yeah.
Gonna be fun.
So biggest takeaway there is that you guys all one at a time peaked the same person. Sky, your Sage died to the Astra, your Omen died to the Astra, then the Raze died to the Astra. So like we took 3 individual 1v1s when we could have taken a single 3v1, right? Like just bum rush the Astra, find the Sage. We played so slow and so far from each other that you guys ended up peaking individually. Even though it might not feel like it, just realize like that's something to keep in mind, is that like maybe to you guys felt like you guys were playing together and maybe you guys were communicating and all this shit. But the problem is, look at it from Astra's point of view. From Astra's point of view, you guys are just one at a time, freaking just slowly creeping up, making it super easy for her to kill you guys, you know? Like she had a freaking Marshall, you know, and she's not a Jet, so she couldn't dash away. So if you guys were just a little bit faster, a little bit more aggressive, especially because you knew where she was at, she really should not win that fight unless all three of you guys whiff, you know. But she really should not be able to win that fight. But from her perspective, the speed at which you guys peaked and the distance between you guys, like in her eyes, you guys are just one at a time, just taking turns, like just slow walking right into her crosshair. So just kind of something to think about.
Blocking sight.
I know exactly where you are.
Spike.
Okay, so we know that the op is up ramp. So at this point, we need to either smoke out main, so that way your Raze is able to try to maintain control of this, or you need to smoke off top ramp, which will force the Jet to either move up or move back. Yeah, but ultimately you have a Sky that's kind of on a late flank. So I in reality, what you need to do is you really just need to wait. Raze, you kind of need to stop peeking in order to give your Omen and your Sky to get there in time. You decide to peek the op. Maybe you didn't decide to peek the op, but the op peeked you. But the problem is that you were just out in the open, right? So, you know, at that point, I think it might be worth to continue jiggling or to just kind of tuck into a corner, you know, just to buy time for your Sky and your Omen to arrive. Because the problem is your Sky is going to slow walk all the way through sewers, right? And the bomb's already down, so it's a little bit too late. But if she runs, then the Jet's going to be aware.
Last player standing.
Fire in the hole. You figure. Bomb buddy out.
Okay, so I like this change of pace right here. Jet, Raze, I like that. I like that you guys are, it looks like you guys are talking about something, going for a certain kind of play.
Bomb buddy out.
So based off of that, it looks like the read is it's a solo A. If it's just a Cypher, I would consider pushing this guy. You have a Raze and a Jet dash. I'd consider pushing the heck out of him.
Hawk out. Found one.
30 seconds left. Spike planted. Last player standing.
It's okay, we don't talk about that one.
30 seconds left. Spike planted.
You were a mistake.
So right here, we need to speed up our process here, right? Like you guys have a read that one's main. We could probably re-smoke main, and then you guys need to 2v2 the two that are probably on site. It's probably Cypher, probably Sage, because you know one is like still main. So if you guys can go together, like Omen, if you can go elbow with your Sage and you can kind of go fast, you guys have a chance of 2v2ing the Sage and the Cypher. Best case scenario, both you guys come out alive, right? And then it ends up being a 2v1 against Astra. Worst case scenario, you guys like trade each other out, and so it'd just be one of you guys versus the Astra. In the end, it'd be like a 1v1. I guess worst case scenario is you both die, but it's better than what's happening now, is that your Sage is going for a 1v2 on site. Omen, you are safe. You know, you are in a position where it's like you're just safe. It's highly unlikely that the guys on site like really push you when they need to be watching elbow, because that's the immediate threat. So like they're watching choke points. Your Astra is going to be watching the cross. So Omen, the moment you cross, the Astra is going to have that read, and the Astra is either going to kill you or let them know where you're at, right? Like let her teammates know that, like let the Cypher and the Sage know exactly where you're at. This is another thing where I just see that you guys are taking these individual fights in unfavorable odds. You know, it's a small habit that you guys seem to have. I think all of you seem to have this, and I'm hoping for you guys to kind of
Player standing.
break away from that. Yeah, see, you don't try going for a play until your Sage dies. The moment your Sage dies, you're instantly running and trying to clear corners and shit, but you don't do it while your Sage is alive. You know, imagine if you guys did that together, you know? Something to keep in mind is that the opposing team knows if they kill somebody elbow, they know you're not elbow. They got to look at the other side, right? And so we kind of want to get into that habit of trading. Yeah, just to keep in mind, you know, it's like I feel like round after round, I'm seeing a lot of these individual plays and somebody dies alone, right? It's like nobody's ever really traded out because nobody's ever really in a position to trade each other out. So something to just kind of keep in mind.
Spike down B.
So your Skye got a great pick. Your Skye decides to go for a re-peek with the Sheriff. I don't think she should have, but she's a freaking boss and she wins anyways. So here, your Skye is like pushing in. Your Sage is there to support, but Sage, you're a little far back. I would like to see you either walk up or for your Skye to back away. Okay, so now that you guys have shown presence mid, that you guys are now pushing mid, your B players should be kind of pushing towards this. Because what we want to do is we want to sandwich them. We want to engage into this fight together, right? Like your B main players and then your mid players, like you guys need to engage into this fight at the same exact time. So that way you catch, like either your mid players or your B players will catch like the opposing team in the back, right? But if you take turns, then they kill the guys mid, and then now they just need to focus on B main. Like we don't want to take turns doing that. You know, we want to catch these guys off.
I know exactly where you are.
Wait, how'd your Omen die? What the heck?
I know exactly
Oh, okay.
where you are.
So Cypher came through vents, it looks like. So it looks like Cypher lurked up and then came through vents.
my way. Blocking sight.
Yeah, I don't know. This one's a little rough.
30 seconds left. One enemy remaining.
You hear her mid.
You want to fight it? Found one.
Hold this together. Sky, you gotta push through this because of
Last player
the
standing.
wall.
10 seconds
Oh
left.
my god.
Hey.
Never mind, you don't need to do anything.
Cover going out.
Will not kill. You will not kill my allies.
Feels different. Enemy spotted B.
One enemy remaining. Spike
There.
down B.
Spike spotted B. Brief, tragic life.
Nice round. The jump peek was unnecessary. If I were you, you're better off probably not giving up your position. You know, don't give up your position at all. Honestly, jump peeking's not worth it. In my opinion, I feel like jump peeking's never worth it. I feel like they nerfed the jump peek with the op, and so I personally don't think it's ever worth it. So giving up your position like that is just not worth it because the Jet just knew exactly where you were, and so yeah.
Seek them out. Fire in the hole.
Last player standing.
Again, kind of taking individual fights here. Yeah.
Shadows traveling.
Thirty seconds left.
Enemy spotted.
For you.
Stealing sight.
Last player standing.
Imposter kill.
10 seconds left.
Find the weak point.
Get him.
Spike down A.
Here.
Blocking sight. I got the
Last player standing.
Sky, I think your team needs a little bit of help entry with your flashes. I think that maybe you should play with your team a little bit more and less as that lurk. I know you might have this idea of like preventing rotates and stuff like that. I think that maybe we could try to either swap roles or maybe not do it as much. The thing is, if you're fast, like this is the thing to keep in mind. If you are fast, there's most likely only one person on B site and one person B heaven. The other is probably ropes, and then there's probably 2 on A side, right? So if you're fast, you can 5v1 the person on site. But if you're slow, then you give the opposing team too much time to rotate. I think that we could probably utilize your flash and your dog in order to help your entries, right? Like help your jet and your rays get onto site, or at least start clearing out some space a little bit sooner. Because the problem I just saw was that like you guys got smoked off early, and then like you guys made 0 space, took a bunch of damage, and then like you guys all kind of just died. I don't know if you guys even got a kill that round. So I think that we kind of need to ensure that that your sky is with the team to kind of help gather some space, gather some info. Cypher's playing B, so you could clear out the trips with the dog.
Jet.
Hawk out. Our spike carrier's down.
Spike down mid.
Heal up, squad.
Last player standing.
There's a team here. I dropped the spike.
Finished.
Shadows traveling.
Reloading.
You guys need to learn where that camera is. The camera's higher up. The camera is actually up here. So you guys need to learn where that camera is at. It's a really typical spot for ciphers. Okay, so I'm gonna assume this is a lack of communication. Your Sage walls, and your Sage runs away. Sage, I'm sorry. I don't care what role you are. That's not a play. It looks like you got tagged with the camera. Same thing. Okay, so reactively, yes, I understand why you backed off was to pull that camera. But the problem is that your jet is unaware of that, right? Your jet has dashed out. Your rays should be blast packing out, but your rays is still inside of B main. And now you guys have failed to cross this wall, and they've shot it out. So now your wall is kind of useless. Your jet is out. Your jet is solo fighting the Cypher. And then Sage, like you're backing away. And your Raze, you haven't moved an inch. You know? So you haven't moved an inch. So you guys aren't able to capitalize on your jet sentry.
30 seconds left.
You guys have control of mid, but you guys are running out of time.
Blinded.
Oh shoot, Ricky, nice shot.
Got removed.
So right here, it just looks like you kind of doing this individually.
I got removed.
So you guys are out. Okay, okay. Not bad. 2v2, not bad. I think you guys played it decent. One Raptor.
Last player standing.
It's unfortunate. Raze, I noticed you ADS a lot. I don't have anything against it, but when they're that close, it's quite a bit tougher. The gun shoots a bit slower, so especially when you have a Spectre, I think you're better off just spray and praying over trying to ADS and really be accurate with it. Yeah, just something to keep in mind. So you know 2 on A. Okay, so that's the info you have so far. 2 on A. Looks like you guys are trying to play slow and play for a pick, which is fine. But I think the problem here is that like you're trying to it seems like you guys are kind of banking on this pick on A, right? Like that flank and catching that flank. The problem is if your Raze, your Omen, your Sage do not apply pressure elsewhere on the map, your A players are not going to feel safe pushing through A. And so we need to ensure that we're applying some pressure in mid. I like that you guys are pushing this together.
Enemy spotted A.
Oh, nice kill. That's unfortunate, guys. The only tip I can really have for that is to after you get the pick, to consider kind of exploding onto site or exploding up ramp. You know, I think the problem is that you guys were going so slow that you guys are just kind of slow walking, and then you guys kind of like are like slow walking and like stopping every corner, right? And the problem is that like the Astra just caught you guys just standing still, right? And you guys didn't expect her there, and so kind of fast clearing, right? And then at the same time, kind of always expecting somebody to be there. I called this early in the round, or not early in the round, but early in the in this match, that the way people play this map generally is just like 1 on B site, 1 B heaven, 1 in vents, and then 1 like on ramp, 1 on A site, or 2 on A side, or 2 in ramps, up ramps, that kind of thing. But generally it's always gonna be 2. And so I think you guys need to kind of always expect that. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It was just a little unfortunate. You could say maybe she got lucky, or it looked like both you guys just weren't expecting her to actually be up there, but you guys always need to be expecting her to be up there. And then raise this Cypher camera. You gotta remember that camera, because like all Cyphers do it, you know?
30 seconds left.
You hear vents. The problem I have with this play is that like you guys have the read that it's a solo A, right? Like it should be a solo A or maybe 2 on A. If that's the case, Sage, I think you should have walled off ropes, which would give you guys enough time to kind of pressure free clear B heaven. And there is actually somebody to your left, so let's see if we can get that frag with your Omen, because your Omen's just a little bit behind, because your Omen feels threatened by vents. Oh, nice kill. Your Raze is kind of out on site.
Bomb buddy out.
1 enemy
Got the
remaining.
read that CT. Omen, you have to get out and plant. Oh, Sage, nice.
Found one. Reloading. Barrier engaged. Reloading. Your duty is not over. Cool.
One day. Hawk out.
Spike down mid.
I have the spike.
One enemy remaining.
God, Jet, I would not have updrafted. Holy crap. Jet, a little baity here. Your Sage is walking up. You should be walking up with her.
Get out of my way. Wall raised. Okay. Spike carriers down.
One of the reasons why a lot of times Jets are kind of pressured to go in first. One is because they can dash in. Two, it's because they have their own smokes they can play around. But also the fact that they can dash out. I'm gonna critique your duelist a little bit here. Is that so the Sage has done you a favor, given you your wall, so that way you guys can walk in. You guys have a Roomba that you guys don't really follow, and then your Sage is walking in, Jet, but you are not moving. And Raze, you are also not moving. You know, so it looks like you guys are kind of following up. But look how far up your Sage is. You know, you guys didn't even follow the Roomba onto site, and you guys can literally walk in for free. And then Jet, you proceed to back away, right? And so it's like your Sage is now trying to clear sight alone. Your Raze, so your Sage falls, so your Raze is attempting to trade it out, but Jet, you decide to back up behind the slow, right? So you back up, Sage slows it, so now you're stuck in the slow. If you had pushed forward, the Sage wouldn't have been able to successfully isolate that fight, and so now your Raze has to go for a 1v1 fight. Now you're stuck here, you're stuck in the slow, but get the read ciphers on site. So the issue I see here is that you are now going for a hero play after your two teammates die, right? Imagine you went for a hero play before that, right? Where you're running and jumping onto site. Look at that, you know, it's that could have been pretty insane if you guys had done that together instead, you know. So just something to kind of keep in mind is that I see a lot. That a lot of people tend to go for hero plays when they can't win it. 9 bullets. Holy shit.
Seconds left. Thrifty.
It's a bummer. So they won a thrifty round. Not a whole lot I can really say about that last round. One thing I'd say, Sky, I think you need to play with your flashes for your team a little bit more. I think your team would feel a lot more comfortable entering with your utility rather than having the Sky and the Omen play mid. Just because the issue is that the two guys with the 2 blinds are busy playing mid, right? And they're not helping with the entries. And then Sky, maybe practicing your pop flashes. I think your flashes seem a little bit slow. They're always a little bit deep, which is fine, right? They have a purpose. But learning to pop flash, I think you would have been able to get that Astra before she was ready, you know. So she seemed like she was kind of ready to try to shoot you, and she was able to take a lot of damage out on you. So something kind of keep in mind. But yeah, biggest takeaways for me, honestly, is just like I see a lack of togetherness, a lot of like individual plays. You know, a lot of you guys kind of going for your own solo thing, and relying too much on your guys' individual performance to win these rounds, right? Like it's like you win a lot of these rounds because like your one player happened to just like get like this awesome entry pick or this awesome impact frag, right? Which like helps you guys steamroll. But the problem is I feel like if you guys don't get that entry pick and it's like a 4v5, then you guys just lose no matter what. It's like you guys aren't able to really like capitalize on a teammate's death the way you possibly could. So something to keep in mind. I think while this chaos was happening here, B main, your mid players should have been up in heaven by that point. Like your B site players and your B heaven players should be fighting at the same time. So if you guys are mid, you guys should have control of mid and you guys should be up in heaven by the time your B main players are ready to push out. If you guys aren't, then the problem happens here, right? You lose 3 on site and now it's just you 2 guys mid who are now clearing heaven when it's too late. And so we just want to pay attention to timing and pay attention to playing together. If you guys are in a 2v2, I highly recommend you guys really stick next to each other, you know, together-wise. In a situation like this where it was a 3 main and 2 mid, I think that was a good play, honestly. I just think that the timing was off. You know, your mid players are not pushing when your B players are dying on site, right? So, like, there was, like, one chick, I think, Heaven, probably the Sage, Heaven, who was, like, shooting with the Sheriff against your B players. Like, your mid players should be killing her in the back, you know? Like, that Sage isn't even focused on mid. And so, yeah, I don't know. Just keep in mind stuff like that, you know, and I think that you guys can definitely improve. And I think that you guys individually have skill and you guys can definitely like get better and play this game. But it's the lack of togetherness, you know. You guys didn't really look like a team. This just kind of looks like solo queue random pub matches in ranked or in unrated, right? And so we kind of want to get away from that look, right? And really look like you guys are playing together. You know, there's always somebody there to trade. There's the timing is like perfect, right? Whereas like you guys are pushing and swarming in on the same site at the same time rather than taking turns. Because the problem is that once they kill these B main players and they've cleared that B main, like they've ensured that B main is clear, then all of them are kind of hyper focused on you guys. Where I'm sure you guys showed presence that you guys were mid, and so like everybody kind of just knew that they just had to look at mid at that point, you know, especially because Astra was like in ropes kind of holding that. But something to keep in mind really is you know, it's like I feel like you guys lost a lot of rounds just due to pure timing and going for these individual plays when you guys could have played together, you know, because you guys had numbers and could have won. So yeah, stuff to keep in mind. Good luck, guys. If you guys have another video you want me to VOD review, just send it my way. Make sure you send me the one with a VOD with voice comms too, because that's really important. So yeah.